is happening?
What's up, man?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Got a little snowfall happening. Little snowfall
Really?
happening. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Well, man, I appreciate you jumping in here. I know Jay and Al are doing a little master class with Coach Burt. So I know that they've got that going on. And so we did not want to just cancel the call and reached out to my man, Mr. Matt Durbin, and I appreciate you jumping in. And I
Yeah.
know we got some faces jumping in, and we've got some things going on. But while everybody's kind of jumping in, Matt, kind of share a little bit of your background, kind of where you're at, a little bit about your story, give some context for people listening, and before we jump into the call.
Yeah. So I run a team here in the Pittsburgh area with my business partner, DJ Fairley. Got about 20 or so agents now, done over 200 transactions the last couple of years, 200 and a half or so. Started a team about 2018 here in Pittsburgh. Before that was in South Florida. Sold real estate there for a couple of years, and prior to that, was in the mortgage industry back in the bubble days. Last bubble.
The last bubble days.
The last mortgage debacle.
Yes, for sure. So, the kind of the intent of this call for you guys listening in, kind of our little power hour, and we're here to kind of open it up for any questions or challenges that you have. And like I said, just a unique opportunity to be able to have Matt jump in and join us, who's in the trenches. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to either throw it in the chat or come on in and ask your question, and Matt and I will unpack everything for you. Matt, I do have a question, kind of because you played the the mortgage side of things, and then now on the real estate side of things, with what Jay was kind of talking about yesterday with the changes within mortgage on with banks, right? With banks being able to have the opportunity to be able to compensate agents, was on the conventional side. Now FHA is allowing it, and I'm sure everybody else VA will just follow suit. Kind of, have you gone down that rabbit hole yet to kind of see what that is, and really how big of an opportunity it could be?
I've looked at it a lot here the last year, quite honestly, because I think for a lot of us agents and a lot of teams and a lot of everybody in the industry, I think commissions are getting squeezed, right? And so when you have downward pressure on commissions, especially in the market that we had the last couple of years, where people were dropping their pants to get a listing and doing reduced commissions and offering less commission and making it harder to get your commissions. And then from a team leader standpoint, where you're kind of fighting. You got your broker side of the commission, and then you've got the agent side on the team, and they're split with the commissions, and there's just not a lot left on the bone at the end of the day. So if you could add a mortgage piece and say you're doing 20 deals a year, and and somehow you're able to add mortgage to that and add another 5-10 deals and get a piece of the mortgage side of that, it'll drastically improve your bottom line and your profit at the end of the day. So for us, that's the way that we've been looking at it. Is that a possibility for us to add? Is that because it goes straight to, it's just a straight bottom line number that you add to your business. You're doing the transaction already. You already I hate to say it. I've been on the mortgage side, I've been on the real estate side, but at the end of the day, we are doing all the work. The mortgage lender is doing the upfront work to develop a relationship with us, and it takes longer, but once they have us, they continue to just get fed.
Right.
We, on the other hand, are doing all the hard work to get the client, to procure the client, to get them under contract. We're doing a lot of that work. So if we end up taking a little bit of a piece of that, I see no problem with that.
Me either, right? It's the whole thing that, and this is what I always push with everybody, you know, in this bit in the real estate space, in the residential real estate space, is that you're investing dollars to acquire a client, and yet you're okay with just handing that to somebody, and they didn't do anything to pay, invest to acquire that client. That's not a good business relationship. And so I think, you know, there's been a lot of, you know, misalignment there. There's a lot of, you know, entitled people on that side, that they feel that if they have a relationship and they do a little bit here or there for you, that's good enough. And it's like, wow, you know, what does it cost you to acquire a client? I mean, take all of your marketing dollars. How many clients did you close? I mean, what's the cost to a closed client? What does that cost you? And then, you know, add in your time, right? The time that, even if you're on, like, you know, if it's a prospecting side of things, and you know, secure a, you know, a listing, and then they need to go buy, and then, you know, then you're able to work with them, and you hand them over to a lender, you don't get anything. I mean, how is that a good business relationship? Right. So
yeah, and I mean, you throw in, like, we had an Op City close this week. We've got a home story that's set to close. Op City, the referral fee is 38%. Home Story, it's 35 plus a $5.95 transaction fee, and Home Light is 33%. So somebody's coming in and taking 40% of the transaction right off the top.
Right.
I mean, like, so it's.
And if you're a team lead and you're splitting that with an agent,
yes, there's not a lot left.
Not a lot left. And you look at, okay, well, what are all the ways to grow our business? And you look at, okay, well, obviously more leads is one way. A better conversion of leads is one way. Yep. And, you know, one of the other ways is to increase the per transaction value. And so when you look at, okay, well, what are some of the things that we can influence for that to increase? And so say, you know, you go from an average of 5,000 per deal, and what if there's a way to where you can get it to 7,500 to 8,000 per deal, or 9, or even double it? And you're like, well, what are all the ways to do that? Well, let's increase our average sales price. Let's hold firm on our commission. Let's make sure we have our transaction fee. And then now, what if you're able to, you know, bring in a piece of on the mortgage side of things that increases the value? And, you know, then there's other relationships out there. And I think you get to a certain point, like where you guys are, you know, attorney, title relations, there's just other doors open. That's what I always tell, you know, a lot of clients. When you break that 100 transaction, you know, threshold, and getting from 0 to 100 is the hardest. When you get to 100, then it starts to, there's scale to be able to go. But what happens, and Matt, you know this, you get into a couple hundred transactions per year, a lot of doors start opening for you. And I think, you know, understanding, you know, the value that you have, then you can start to, okay, what are some opportunities here to where I can increase, you know, these revenues to help add in. I don't have to do more units, but I can make every unit more valuable. And that's really where I guess my whole point for all of you thinking about that is that, you know, you're investing to acquire that client. How come you think it's a fair business relationship to just hand it over to somebody for nothing?
Yep. Well, yeah. And too, I mean, you think about almost every brokerage out there, they make their money on the ancillary services. They don't even really make any money on the real estate side of things. They make their money on mortgage and title.
Right.
All day. I mean, the real estate piece pays for the offices and the managers and the staff, and it's basically in net zero. And then you know, the title and mortgages are where they actually earn their profit.
Right. Absolutely. And so, you know, and then insurance is an option, you know, coming into as a real option as well. So there's a lot of opportunity to increase that average unit value. What's up, everybody? Man, appreciate you guys jumping in. If you have any questions for Matt or myself, or just in general, feel free, either unmute, throw it in the chat, and we'll do our best to unpack anything that you guys have.
I've got a question if it's a good time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, first, John, I'm still a little bitter that you beat me at our fantasy football championship. So just throwing that out there. But, but for you,
You're
Matt,
almost stacked.
as you're building out your team, so I'm in the process of building out a team and, going through the training and then going through also recruiting as well. And then I'm trying to build out a coaching company. So I'm just curious more about kind of your calendar, maybe early on. It just kind of feels like when I focus on one thing, I kind of drop the other two plates and, just kind of, just where to spend my resources and time. And for me, it comes down to calendar. So just curious about your calendar, Matt.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great question. Go
I
ahead,
mean,
Matt.
I've done that and I've wasted a lot of time on things that I never got off the ground because I was trying to do too many things at once. So my advice is and probably always will be simplify what you're doing, get one thing to completion before you start another one. Like, if because this is a time right now where if you're chasing too many things, you're going to be mediocre at all of them, and you're never going to get in. A couple of them are going to fail, or they're never going to get off the ground, right? Like that's kind of what has happened with us. We've looked at doing all of those things, right? And this is not the market to start 3 different businesses. This is the market to really go deep on 1 or 2 things. If that's production and building your team, I would do that. And potentially once that's running to the point where you need it to be, then you look for the next thing. But if you try to do them all at once, it's going to be really hard. And especially right now, like, the talk that we had with our team the other day, like on John's levels, like transactions are down 30% across the board nationally, right? So we have to increase. Can we increase the amount of activity that we do by 30%? Can we recruit 30% more people? Can we increase our commissions by 30%, not give away an extra 0.5% on every deal or give $500 to get a deal closed? Can we add it? Can we increase the admin fee? Like, what can you do to keep, at the end of the day, the bottom line is all that matters. And so you can do that with just production in a team. You could add coaching too. I would just say, I would be very careful in a market like this to have too many things going on and not have enough time for all of them and have them all suffer.
Yeah, and 100%. I think the biggest thing, it's I remember Ed Milet saying this, and it's so true, right? And he talks about, the thing that, millionaires have on average X number of revenue streams. He says it's the biggest false thing that you'll ever hear in your life. And he said the reality is that they had one thing that got them on the way, and then they added the other things when the one thing was so solid, and then everything else added from there. So what you have to kind of step back and, I have this belief that the only thing easier than getting a real estate license is saying you're a coach. And there's a lot of fugazis out there. There's a lot of people that just want your money and really can't deliver on what it is that you need to help you, break through the constraints and then be able to take action on what it is that you must do in order for you to grow your business the way you want to grow it. And so, there's a lot of people, hey, here's the 5 quick steps. No, there is no quick step. There is nothing but understanding of clarity, understanding of, the value that you can make and the value you can keep and deliver on, that you're able to monetize with a solid plan and the right team around you. And until you understand how those 4 things work together, but you also got to find somebody that can help you break through the biggest constraint that we all have, and that's the constraint in our thinking. And so for me, and Matt knows this, I mean, majority of our calls are life coaching calls than they are business development, business growth calls. So you got to find, what it is that you need as it relates to the coaching side of things. But what makes you more valuable in the eyes of the people out there, because trust is at an all-time low. And if you even look, unless you're Amazon or what you're wanting to buy, the days of like even programs of click and buy are really over with. Ryan Holiday is my favorite author. I've been reading him for, 7-8 years now. And I've never, other than buying his books, I've never bought any of his programs. Like, I was just looking at it before we went live. I'm like, damn, I trust this dude. He's my favorite author, yet like I'm hesitant to spend $99 with the guy. And it's just like, but the days of click and buy are over. So what you have to do is you have to be with proof, and the more proof that you can create, the more valuable you're going to be in the future. And like what we talk about on where agent attraction has kind of gone, and this is kind of what Matt and DJ are living, is that production is attractive. And especially in a market like this right now, when people are lost, confused, and insecure, if you're the solid beacon in your market and you're producing and people are turning their heads, are like, what the heck are you doing? That is attractive. And so to Matt's point, if it was me and I still had my actual real estate team, we would be all in on production and increasing headcount and creating a ripple effect in our market to where we gain mind share. See, if you want more market share, you have to gain more mind share first. And it's real hard to gain mind share and build trust when you're trying to do 2 or 3 things. If you can just that narrow focus, the one thing, and you really nail that one thing, then everything else takes care of itself. And so if it was me, I would be all in on production and building the team and the organization, and make sure I'm running it like a business. I'm paying myself a market-based wage. I'm just harvesting just enough profits to not suck the growth out of the business, and really run it like a business. And when you do that and do that for 3 years, then you can do whatever the hell you want to do. You like just focus on that for, a 36-month run, and you commit to that, commit to building the best business that you can build. Everything else takes care of itself. I mean, that's what we did. I mean, we went all in. I mean, we built the best business we could, and we added value. And then it just say, hey, let's go the coaching route. Wind us up, Matt.
Right. No, I mean, honestly, that's exactly the conversation we just had in our like annual team meeting last week. It's like, yeah, we like to chase squirrels. We like to have ideas, and we like to try, oh, we could do this, and we could do this, and we could do this. And, and DJ's the dreamer. He loves that stuff. I'm like, this entire year, we're not having that conversation. Like, if you come to me and try to bring an idea of something other than how to get more listings and do more production in 2023, I'm shutting the door. Yeah. Like, it's just production, grow the team. Everything else will fall into place after that. Because we made a lot of the mistakes with attraction, where you bring the wrong people in, or you give the wrong split structures to make it work. And now we feel the pain of that, because the people who were pretenders that we probably weren't going to work out, and we knew it from the start, we brought them in because we try to grow the rev share side of things. And then it doesn't work out, and we feel bad about it when it probably wasn't at the beginning. So our whole thought is what John was saying, is do way more than everybody else, do way more production, sell more units, sell more homes, have higher volume, become top in our marketplace, and we'll attract the talent that we want and need to the organization.
The other reminder, Matt, just kind of thinking as you were talking through there, and a lot of people have that entrepreneurial DNA when they get into real estate, right? And what tends to happen when you have that is you tend to get bored. That's why you're always wanting to tinker with things. That's why you're always wanting to do this. And I'm just telling you, fall in love with the mundane. And, Al shared a statement from Rob Flick, who's number 1, number 2, just kind of, I know Gove's about to pass him for the largest organization at EXP. They both have about 20,000 in their rev share group. And Rob said, the basics are not sexy, yet the results are. And really falling in love with the controllables. And what I would say as an entrepreneur, if that's kind of your DNA and you're hardwired to always tinker with things, I would just, like what Matt said, be obsessive over building a business. be obsessive over building a business. And what do you need to do to build a business with an emphasis on marketing that just happens to sell real estate? Because if you obsess over that for 3 years and you know, the foundation of marketing, of sales, of you know, systems, of processes, of people, of leadership, of the financials, and like you obsess over that, I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? Because those foundational principles will travel. But I'm gonna tell you, give it 3 to 5 years, and then they'll travel. It's just like anything, it just takes time. There's so many moving parts, and for you to really have an understanding or a grasp, it's never ending. So I mean, that's where I would be. I mean, I would be just like I mean, just consume and obsess over everything. I mean, you know, if you're not following like Vern Harnish, you know, scaling up with his company, if you're not paying attention to Gino and traction, you know, what Ryan Dice, and they've moved over to their company Scalable, which is kind of a competitor to the EOS, with Gino Wickman, and what they're offering was Scalable. It's just they're a competitor now in that space on really the operating system for your business. And those are the things that you really want to obsess over, in building a foundation and building a business, not a practice. And there's nothing wrong with building a practice. I mean, if that's what you want to do, you know, you make a damn good living just having a real estate practice. But if you want to build a business, that's
the most profitable real estate business there is.
Yes, it is.
Solo agent. I mean, it really is. I mean, you can make a lot of money with a team, but it takes a lot longer than you think.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing more profitable than listing a home yourself and selling it, keeping all of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's Hofstadter's law, right? Everything takes twice as long. Even when you factor it, it is going to take twice as long. Just how it works. We're not trying to discourage you. We're just trying to paint.
Man, you gotta find your lane, right? Like,
yeah.
There are a lot of people out there who are really good at one thing, or better than me at a certain thing, or better than somebody else. You know, I think the problem comes when we try to be everybody and we're not, right? Like, we try to be the coach, we try to be the influencer on social media, we try to be Ricky Kruth, we try to be Dan Beer, we try to be we're trying to mock somebody who is in a way different position, has been doing it longer. We're trying to be Jay Kinder. We're never going to be Jay Kinder because we haven't, like what John says, we don't have all of those years of relationships that he's got. So at the end of the day, it's not what their path isn't going to work for us all the time. So we got to find an educated decision on what is the best route for me to get from A to B. And then when I'm at B, then I can look to see, but you got to figure out what works for you. What works for you might not work for me, or might not work for somebody else. So you got to get really clear on where you're trying to get to. Is it the bottom line number? Is it the profit number? Is it an income number? Is it a organization number? You got to get really clear on what the end goal is, and then reverse engineer how you're going to get there and what that looks like. Because if you're not, and you got a bunch of things you're trying to do, it's not going to work. It's just not. Yeah,
I think too, Matt, it's the challenge when people go from a practice to a business, they build that lifestyle business, and then that lifestyle business pays them really, really well. And it's almost like their own personal piggy bank. And then when we're wanting to shift to go to business and you've got to go to a market-based wage, that hurts. And so that was a couple of the mistakes that we made, because, Jay early on had built a lifestyle business. And then, when we're trying to get him out of production, and you take him out of the number one producer out of production, that's built this lifestyle business that's still trying to support it when he's not doing any production, your cash will disappear in a hurry. And so even for him, we had to make the transition to where we could slowly pull him out. And then where he was spending his time, which was building the coaching organization, was now be able to support his life. And then once we got him out, because see, the thing, when you go from a practice to a business, you get paid for what you do, right? That's where a lot of people get messed up when they try to get out of production, is they keep paying themselves as if they are in production. And that's not the same compensation, because there's nothing in this business that pays you more than listing and selling homes, period. You make less as the owner than you do listing and selling homes. And when you make that transition and you step out of that role, you have to step out of that compensation. And that's real hard for people to do, because they haven't been disciplined to pay themselves for what they do. They pay themselves everything. And that's the biggest mistake that I see real estate agents getting into when they want to grow and build a team, is making sure that they have to understand the compensation piece and understand the financials and understand the math at a high level. And most entrepreneurs on here are like, hell no, I don't want to understand that math. That's fine. The math is going to teach you a lesson.
Yep.
And one of the biggest changes for us was going through and meeting Greg Crabtree. And that relationship was through Vern Harnish. And so Vern Harnish wrote Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. We were diehard, disciples to that. We worked with Vern. He taught us everything around to grow and scale our business. And he I like to say that that's the advanced high school version. And then he wrote the advanced college version, was scaling up. It's a challenge. That's why we went to and started following the EOS process, because it was just easier to digest. But the financial component, the one book that changed everything for us on the math side of things in business, was Greg Crabtree's book, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. It is probably one of the best books, because it's written to entrepreneurs, and Greg is a CPA that was a former IRS auditor. So he knew the game, turned it into the CPA world, working with small business entrepreneurs. And the book, I mean, once you go through it, you understand salary cap, you understand labor efficiency ratios, you understand what is true company dollar, what is a perfect, what is an ideal net profit before taxes. Like, he gives you the whole playbook of how to set up your financials. And if you guys, and this is what I've been pushing, because Matt, you and I've talked about this over the last couple of years. You've been able to be reactive, and you just felt like deals were going to keep coming to you. So you were just like cashing checks, and you were cashing checks fast. Whereas now we're getting back into a market of average days on market is a real thing. Meaning, when you take a client, you're not going to get a check in 30 days like you've been able to the last couple of years. When you get a client to agree to do business with you, you might not get that check for 100 and 120 days. So the cash conversion cycle has extended out. And you've got to understand, and if you guys go through Greg's book, and when we talk finances and we talk about the numbers, and you're like, hey, and the perfect thing is you need about an hour and a half a week. And then one time a month, you need to spend about 6 or 7 hours, right? You need to do that. But with your math equation, and this goes back to, Ricky, this goes back to your question, it's all about the calendar. Well, the allocation of time on when you're looking at your finances, like I said, a minimum of an hour a week. And then you need maybe a Saturday, you spend 6 hours, to where you kind of audit through everything. You look at the budget versus actual, what charges creeped in, do I need to let go? And then you forecast. So the rule of thumb, Ricky, so this is a math equation in your calendar, 75% of your time on the financials need to be on the future, 25% on what has happened. And see, what happens is most people spend too much time looking in the past, and they don't even know what that means. Like, what is this teaching me? What am I learning from this? And so we've got to get really good at forecasting, monitoring cash flow. And this goes back to your question, to Matt's point that he nailed, was you're not going to have enough time to nail cash flow if you're spread thin trying to do 3 other things. It's all about cash flow, cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Because as you grow, growth sucks cash, period. Growth sucks cash. And so you just always remember that. But get that down. And I think I'll type it in here in the chat. I know we had a question. What was the name of the book? So it's Simple Numbers. Matt, you're an operation. I mean, you can get out in the trenches with the best of them, but you have that unique advantage because you know the operational side of things. You've got an eye for marketing, so you're kind of really well rounded. Anything there that kind of, as we were kind of talking through that kind of sparked a thought for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and again, and I think I just keep going back to it. In a market like this, we have to pay attention to the profit number, because in a changing market, everything is going to be harder. Listings are going to sit longer. Just looking at our numbers, like year over year, the last 2 years, like our inventory levels are going up. The trend is going up. Homes are going to sit longer. There is opportunity from a buyer standpoint. Our buyers agents are having more success in the last couple of weeks than we have in the last 6 months here. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think from a marketing standpoint, the way that I have been looking at it, because I've got a good agent on our team who does a ton of business, but when I look at his numbers, a percentage is OpCity, he's giving 40% away, a percentage is Zillow, and he's getting, and it's like a 3 to 1 return. There's just too much money being given away to the lead providers and the referral companies, and we are going with an emphasis on pay-per-click and Facebook, and we'll get more leads and we'll have more people to call, and back to the prospecting based business that we started from. Everybody gets caught in the lead trap because it's easy money. But when you go look at your year's worth of Zillow leads and what you actually made versus what you spent versus what you paid, in terms of a split, there's no money left in it. You'd be better off, calling FSBOs and doing 5 FSBOs than you would 10 Zillow leads or 15 Zillow leads. So just be very cognizant of the profit number on the business that you're doing, and try to find what are the ways that we can really generate business that's going to make us the most money. For us, that's expireds, that's FSBOs, that's pay-per-click leads, that's Spirit. And I'm not chasing Zillow anymore.
So when we look at kind of key strategies right now to be focused on, that we need to really go deep on in the business, what are those, were those them that you just kind of share? What are the strategies that you're going deep on?
Expired FSBOs, outbound prospecting.
Okay.
Pay-per-click, Facebook leads, I kind of lump them together. Pay-per-click's a little bit better, but Facebook leads, I mean, we are using some of Braden's stuff. So if you haven't looked at that, you should. We're using the price reduced ad right now.
Yep.
And my market is getting me leads under $2 a lead.
There you go.
Like, I'd rather have 50 of them or 100 of them, for that matter. 150 of them really is the cost of a Zillow lead these days, $250 to $300. I'd rather have them that I can call through, the agents can call through. And yeah, they're 3 to 6 months. One of the agents on my team's been calling, Pete's been calling for 3 months. He is reaping the rewards now. He's got appointments lined up all day, every day for the next 2 weeks, because they're going to take a little bit more time, but there's a way better return on investment with those. They're way cheaper to get. And if you're a solo agent, you can spend $250, and get 100+ leads a month. It's worth it.
And I'm telling you guys, there's cash conversion cycle on everything. So what Matt just said, it's going to take 3 to 6 months, maybe 9 months, but that cash conversion cycle is there, right? So this is why you've got to have, and I would push Matt even one more. Hey, we need 4 core strategies. And then what do we got to do to have 6 or 7, right? So we got 4 core, and then we've got maybe 3 more that are in kind of a developmental phase, but we got 4 that are just like pumping, and we're deep, we're optimizing them. We're always looking at, okay, hey, so if we're doing for sell by owner, expired, circle prospecting, outbound, okay, do we have an offline strategy? Are we sending postcards with offers and changing the subject lines and the call to action? on top of a call. And then it's like, okay, hey, well, we're doing that, but we're focused on a geographical area. Okay, well, what are we doing to optimize that geographical area? And then, you know, I'm telling you, it's all about getting the leads and more opportunities and more contacts. If you guys are struggling to get leads and you're in a great market that has a great product on the ground, and if you don't, find somebody to do an open house, right? Because it's still supply and demand, and you're going to find who's really real in the market. And I know, Matt, Elle did, you know, open house a couple of weeks ago, like 30 something people came through, picked up like 20 legit leads in 2 hours worth of work, right?
Open
So
houses are coming back.
Open houses are coming back. Sweat equity or check equity. I've got a young client that services the Long Island area. And he did 2 open houses. He only had 3 people come through, but his average price point on those open houses was over 4 million.
Yeah.
Do you
You
think?
gotta look at return on time.
Exactly. Right. So, you know, lower price points, probably going to create more opportunities. Higher price points, all you need is that 1 or 2, especially when you're talking, you know, multi-million-dollar properties. You don't got to sell very many of those to make a lot of money. So it's just understanding, but you guys have got to have, and you need to be thinking about it all the time. What are our strategies? How are we going to acquire clients? What are they? Coach Burt talks about, you know, a showcase is his best lead gen strategy. And a showcase could be any type of an event, could be any type of webinar, something you can invite somebody to. Do you know what an open house is? An open house is an event. An open house is a showcase. There is no reason, even if you have this great area, why don't you invite to meet people there, to take clients there, right? Give you an opportunity to invite, a reason to make contact, a reason to reach out. And, you know, I think the biggest thing, Matt, and the biggest hurdle, I was thinking about this, kind of getting ready. I've been reading, and it's too soon to say it's a must read. But it's getting close to being a must read, and it's The Psychology of Money. And I've been talking about this for the last few days. I've had some really good conversations. I had a really good conversation with Alex about it. But it's The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And so Morgan wrote this paper with 20 key bullet points on the psychology of money, and then he just expanded it and turned it into a book. And what he's talking about is that, you know, most people tend to say financials, they just go straight to the logic side of things. And he said that's not true. He said your emotions drive how you perceive and you view money. And he's just breaking down. There's 20 points. I'm only on the 6th point. I would just tell you this early on, it's worth picking up. Like I said, Ryan Holiday's favorite author, he did a post just holding the book. He just did a post. And I was like, okay, gotcha. I'm hearing you. I ordered it right then, and I've been listening to it on Audible. What he talks about in there, and this come full circle to what I was thinking about. What he talks about there is in the very first chapter is that no one's crazy, and what he means by that is your belief system drives how you view money. And he said, what really it comes down to is when you were born. He said, ultimately, what it comes down to is when you were born, and then the conditions of which you were born in will determine your belief system around money. And so when we look at the example he gave, like if you grew up in high inflation, you pay attention to the fluctuation of gas, or you pay attention to the fluctuation of eggs. Whereas like for me, growing up, like I don't give a shit. Like my dad will text me or hey, what's gas prices up there? I'm like, Dad, I don't know. I just fill my truck up and I keep going. Like I don't care. And you know, but he does, right? He's like, man, I got to go down there. You know, it's 10 cents cheaper. I'm like, Dad, just gas right here. But that's the conditions in which, you know, born generation, you know, dates when you were born will really kind of determine. This is what Morgan's given the examples on. So Matt, it made me think about too, you know, we talk with agents that are struggling about possibly making a move. We know that there's better options for certain people. And when you hear their story or you hear their goals, then we lay the math out and it makes the most sense for them, yet however they still won't make a move. And I think what when we get, sometimes we get frustrated, like the math is so simple. It's like, yeah, I get it, it's just math. However, what is driving their belief system to not want to make the move? And so it's just something just kind of thinking about, but it also comes back to where my thinking around what causes people to not want to do the work required to acquire a client in this business. Like, what is driving them from having that? And, Wally talks a lot about it. There's a lot of mental, blocks, and it comes from our past, but it really comes from the belief system that you have. And so you guys are prospecting based, you're not afraid to get on the phones. Deej is definitely not afraid to get on the phones. I don't think there's a human that he wouldn't talk to. And so, like, how do you guys go about coaching through those mental blocks with people on the team?
Well, I mean, we've actually been talking a lot about this recently with like our core group, and we're starting to do like call blocks again, where everybody's here, where everybody's at least on a Zoom, and it's the environment that you're in will help you get over that call reluctance. If you're sitting at home by yourself and there's nobody around calling, and you don't see anybody else having success, like what's the one thing that's going to get you off the, back on the phone and calling is you're sitting there and you hear somebody else doing it, get a lead, convert them, and they know that there's a $10,000 check coming. Well, I better get on the phone. So seeing other people have successes and creating an environment where everybody is supportive of that and is doing it together in one manner or another helps, because it is hard to do it on your own completely and fully. And if you don't have somebody holding you accountable, when you don't have somebody tracking your numbers or have somebody looking at it, you just won't do it.
Right.
And that's all of us, no matter what we're doing, like you need to have some form of accountability, public or an accountability partner or a team that is doing it with you. But having call days, having call nights, like, DJ and Pete have been doing that on Tuesdays. We're trying to get everybody else involved where they stay here till 7:30 and they're just banging the phones all night. And they do, like, he does it one day a week now, and they're getting business out of it. And so as more people continue to join into it, makes it easier, makes it more fun. It isn't as painful as it is when you're just solo trying to cold call people. And it's because it's a mental, it's all mental. And the other thing too, like, we build up these phone calls and the person on the other end to be like, Grant Cardone. Like, he's like, most of these people that are answering the phone have bought and sold one house, maybe two in their life. Like, they don't know what, like, we know more than they do, but yet we're afraid to talk about real estate with them. And we shouldn't be. Like, this is just another person on the other end of the line. And yeah, 1 out of 20 is probably an asshole, but who cares at the end of the day?
I think there has to be a level of,
there's a mental game to it.
100%. I think there has to, and this ties to the mental thing, to what you were saying, Matt. I think there has to be a level of want to, a level of have to over want to. And so one of the challenges that we've always seen with team members is that sometimes they're not the sole breadwinner, and they're doing it for fun. And so it gets hard and the fun goes away. So they don't want to do it. And so when you go back and you look at like Daniel Pink, and he talks about in Drive, he talks about what happens for us in an instinctive level, right? We will fight, crawl, we will do whatever it takes for survival. And then once our financial survival needs are met, right? So we meet with, our shelter, our food, our kids, like our basic living, we're good. And that number's probably ticked up a little bit, but it was about 75,000 a year. And when you get to about 75,000, especially now you bring it into a household of 75,000, what is going to drive you to go past just survival, financial survival, to wherever it is that you're wanting to go? That one, you got to have a point B. That's what you were saying earlier, Matt, right? point A to point B. You got to have a point B. You got to have a bigger future. And it's that Dan Sullivan quote that I love sharing, is that if you're not happy with your present situation, is because your future is not big enough. For your present to be better, your future has to be bigger. So if your health, wealth, and relationships, if you are not happy with where you're at, it's because you don't have a big enough future. You have no point B. Like, what is B for you? And when you get there, what happens is we just stay in this circular world. But that's no way to live, because if you stay in a circular world, you're going to wake up, Ricky, 3 years from now, and you're going to be in the same damn spot you are, thinking about, man, maybe I should go do a coaching company. You got to have a destination. Where am I going? I'm going from A and I'm going to B. And it has to be bigger than survival. And so I love, thinking about that. And when you look at motivation, and it's one of the things, and I've been reminded of this the last couple of weeks a lot, but spending more time on emotional intelligence, and especially one factor is, what is that motivation? And sometimes we need that carrot and stick for that piece of motivation. It's motivation. It's not the best motivation. Best motivation is doing, something that is fun, feels like play, doesn't even feel like we're at work. And that goes back to what Matt was talking about, Ricky, get in your lane to where it's just fun. And then it's, we have to really look at, hey, are we having fun? And then, do I love what I'm doing? And if there's no love there, you're not going to do it for very long. It's not sustainable. But the carrot and the stick, sometimes we need as a spark to get us going. And if you're struggling with that, then what I would say is maybe sometimes, we tend to move away from pain than we do pleasure. And so we've done some fun stuff. We've, had to write a letter to our family saying, hey, dad's been wasting his time and not doing his job and not showing up to take care of this family like I vowed and said I would. Right. So like putting that hand stamp, giving it to the person that's accountable. And if you don't do what you say you're going to do, they're going to mail that letter. We've done some stuff to where write a check to a foundation that we don't want the check to get cashed at, like doing those things like that. But it has to be big enough to create enough pain. That's not sustainable, but it damn sure is enough to get you a spark. And sometimes that's all we need is a little spark.
There's got to be something. We were just talking about this the other day with a couple agents on my team. Like, I can think back for the last 3 years, like 90% of the people on my team, they make just enough to get by.
Yeah.
Right. You make just enough to pay the bills. Think about all of us in this sales business. We make just enough to pay and then once we hit that comfort level, we plateau. There's only so many of us that push through that, and there's got to be something to push through it, and there's got to be a bigger goal ahead of that. And whether that's a why or that's a short-term motivation or whatever that is, we have to break through that plateau of just average. And most of us do it. You look back at what do you make? Well, all you do is I increase my expenses, and then the next year my income goes up, but my income goes up by the amount of expenses that I've increased, and I don't end up with anything more than that. We just continue to do that in a cycle. And it's like, until we figure out how to just totally break through that and have something bigger in order to do that, we all just get by. We're just in that, we're in that comfort level where if the bills are paid and you're not going late on things, and you don't have the drive to go in and make the calls for 3 hours again the next day. That's the hard part.
Yeah. Then you got, that's gut check time too, right? Am I better off, getting a job somewhere, right?
Yeah. What was the Goggins we were talking about at the kitchen table? Is everybody goes to their talent level.
Yeah. Effort.
They never break through that. Everybody will go to wherever their talent level stops, and then they stop, and they just don't, mentally they don't break through, physically you don't break through, monetarily you don't break through. You just go to the point that you are done, like you're at the end of your comfort level, and then that's it.
Yeah. And it takes effort to go through it. And that's where most people stop, is they're just not willing to put in the effort. They're too busy to tinker and trying to find the silver bullet. And the silver bullet is right there. It's effort. And you could out effort your way in this market to gain mind share, and then the market share will follow. Matt, I want to hit on this, question from Jen coming in, talking about, kind of growing the team. And I know you went through this, but it feels like, you're hand holding, and then, when it counts on your production, it suffers, right? Because your time allocation goes back to Ricky's question in the beginning, time allocation, right? It says you're trying to grow and you're trying to pour too much into them. They're robbing your time from what you're supposed to be doing. And I'll say one thing, and then I'll let you answer this. Clayton Mask taught us a very important dynamic and understanding of team members. And he said, B players are who you spend time with instead of your family. And so you're looking for A players, and the definition of an A player is anybody that can get the job done 90% of the time in the given pay range in which they're in. So you have A players that are maybe at a 50,000 salary, and they would not survive in what it takes in a 100K salary or 150K salary. And the same thing for agents, right? When your standards increase and you need them to do X, Y, Z to be an A player, then that changes. But just remember, are they getting the job done 90% of the time? Meaning their goals, their targets, are they hitting them 90% of the time? That's an A player. Plus they align to your core values. That's an A player. So Matt, with and Jen, that might be your biggest problem, is that you're hand holding B and C players, and they're taking you away from your production, and they're taking you away from your family. So that's where I would start first. But second, if you've got some people that have potential, or they are going to be A players, Matt, how do you kind of start to cut that tie, or let the team members run?
I mean, that's the hardest thing there is to do, is because you have to take care of yourself and the team first, and you take care of the team by doing enough production to keep the team afloat and be able to provide everything else that you need to do. So you have to set boundaries, and you have to set time blocks where you are not available to take those calls and suck your time and do everything else. Like there's just there's an abundance of gotta minutes when you have a team, and I have a lot of that. I have the the luxury of having a business partner who can concentrate on production, and now I can concentrate on team members and training and things like that. But that middle stage where you're trying to get through that and continue to grow your team is the hardest. And if you don't have some kind of help, it's gonna cause you to do less income, and they're going to do less because of it. And then you're going to end up, your profit's going to end up dropping. And so we've went through these problems. We originally started with, we're going to have a team of Navy SEALs. So if it's like, there's got to be certain standards that have to be met, or you're out, or you don't get leads, or you don't have this, or you can't get this. And I think, the way that we're looking at it moving forward is going back to more of that model where we just have a higher standard to be on our team. And if the standard is not met, then sure, you can be on the team, but we're not going to fill you up with leads that you're not going to call. We're not going to give you, like, the people who are on the team are going to have options for the first open houses. There's just got to be a higher standard, and we relax the standard to try to grow, and we hire the wrong people because of it, and we don't let them go fast enough. And in turn, we're worse off for it because they're sucking our time, and they're worse off for it because they should probably be doing something else, or they should be looking at a different route. We're not doing them any favors by dragging them along for 6 months or a year in something that we know in our heart that's not going to work out. So there's it's a really fine line, especially when you're first starting out, because there are just not enough hours in the day. Yeah. And that is the peak when you're at that. So, you're an agent and you got 3, 4, 5 team members, and you're trying to grow, and you don't have the money to have somebody help, and you're just working more hours. It's just, and it sucks, and you got to get through that hump. And once you get through it, it's easier. It gets easier the more you have, because you do have a little bit of ability to get leverage, and you don't have to do as many transactions, and you can hand off some buyers that'll get you some time back and those things. But you got to be really careful with who you've got
Yeah.
early on, because they can bring your business down.
Yeah, I think, it's also that fear too, Matt, right? When you're starting out, that, oh shit, I can't leave them behind. And the truth of it is did you leave them behind, or did they just choose not to come along? And when you can reframe it in that, from that reframe, it's like, fuck, I did everything. I provided everything for them. They just chose not to come along. Then it's like, hey, I did my best. It's laid out here for you. I can't do it for you, because that's a different relationship. And so, this is your role within this team, within this business opportunity. Here's my promise, but here's what you have to do. And that comes back to the agreement. So making sure that you've got really strong agreements and you're not operating from a place of expectation. And
Yep.
that'll set you up for disaster if you're doing everything just off of expectation. Like, what is the agreement of success? And you, as a leader, Matt, you get to be hard on the agreement, and you get to love on your people. And that's once you get that, what I just said, and you might have to hear that a couple dozen times, but once you get that, then everything changes. It's all about agreements.
Yep. A lot of times we want it for them, and we expect more of them than they do for themselves or our team members. And it took me a while to learn that. Like, they're not going to be me. They're not going to think like me. They're not going to want it as badly as me. And they have different reasons for that. And that's okay. And we just got to figure out, if they're going to stay, and we're going to meet them where they're at. And as long as we're both agreeable to that, and I still have my time protected to take care of, you have your time protected to take care of your business, then you can continue to move forward in that manner, and you can grow a bigger team in that manner. But if you don't have those expectations and you don't have the agreements met, then it can be a struggle for sure.
For sure. Brother, appreciate you. I know we're running up against the hour. I want to be sensitive to everybody's time. Thank you so much for jumping in, and a ton of value as always. If you guys aren't connected with Matt, do so. Follow him on social media. Get connected. Matt, what's the best way to connect with you?
I'd say Insta. I'll put it in there.
At Matt Durbin.
The Matt Durbin.
At
the Matt Durbin.
At the Matt Durbin. Connect with Matt.
Somebody else has it.
Somebody else has Matt Durbin. So connect
hunt him down.
Matt. Hunt him down. Yeah. Some jackass has at John Kitchen. All right, guys. Well, appreciate y'all. Have a great, powerful week. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. Make sure you connect with Matt. Give him lots of love, and we'll see you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks, guys.